Thank you. We are going to be talking a little bit about our divine feminine. I hope everybody, every human who walked through the doors today took a rose, because the rose is a representation of love, and it's the love that indwells in every single person. And being Mother's Day, I would be remiss if I didn't express the multitude of feelings that come with Mother's Day. For people who may have recently lost their mom, may have lost a child, may have wanted to be a mom and it hasn't happened, may have had a hard experience with the maternal figure in your life. And so with that tenderness in mind, knowing that you're seen, knowing that I've been holding sacred space for everybody for this day, no matter how you experience the day of when we celebrate mothers, which is why I love in Unity that we celebrate the divine feminine, and I love that we don't keep it gender specific, that being of God, being an expression of God, we are all of the aspects of God. And I love it when I look at, I was looking at the history of my life, especially during the meditation, as where I received love. And both of my parents are very nurturing. And I love it when I can see the tenderness come out of the rugged, because it just speaks to the vastness of the love that God is and that it expresses through everybody. And we're going to take a journey through this divine feminine, but I am going to highlight the women of the Bible, because there are a lot of times when women in Scripture are spoken of negatively for whatever reason. And I want to be able to highlight some of the women in the Bible that shaped our faith pattern. And so I'm going to take you through a little bit of history. I'm going to take you through a little bit of how I feel like they connect with us in Unity and how they connect with us today. And so I invite you to see how you relate to these people of the Bible. Think about your life today, how it exudes that feminine energy. And we're going to start with Sarah. So Sarah was the mother of Isaac. Sarah reminds me of, I looked up the names for each of the women. So Sarah means to persevere, to contend with, and to persist. Every single Sarah I have known, with the H, without the H. It is in your namesake. Sarah in the congregation, do you confirm? Yes. Yep. And I see it as strength, and I see it as faith. Sarah is described as the mother of nations. This is the beginning of the lineage that leads to what we know. She is pivotal in the lineage of the Israelites. And one of the things that I like about Sarah here in this story is her sense of humor, because she was experienced in years before she had Isaac. I think if God had done that to me, I would have been like, no. And Isaac means laughter. So she did laugh at the concept of, I am older than reasonably normal to be bearing children. I have wanted one my entire life. And God says, yeah, let's do it while you're, getting arthritis and things like that. And then I move us to Jochebed. She's the mother of Moses. Her name means God is her glory. Can you imagine walking around with the namesake that God is your glory? Like, it just reminds you every day, my glory comes from the divine. And for me, she represents love in a way that is a sacrificial love. She loved her child so much because when the Pharaoh at the time ruled, all boy children shall be killed. And it also reminds me of the creative way women can be protective and forceful, because she put Moses in a basket, put him in the river, and affirming, knowing he was going to float to, and this whole story is ironic. Like, as I'm like researching it, I'm going, oh, this is just, it's good stuff. Because the Pharaoh's daughter, the one that wanted to kill all the babies, is the one who finds Moses. So it's an understanding that is beyond what our sight can see. I really feel like she listened to that internal part, that it gave an understanding that didn't make any sense to in your head space alone. It had to be the head and the heart space together, and that full surrender, and knowing that your child was going to be okay. The daughter of Pharaoh. They think her name might be Bethiah, but they're not sure. So that's why there's a question mark, because it's not fully determined, but there's many stories that say it could be this. So that translated means the daughter of Yahweh. And so I see that as the power of life for her. Like if her name was Bethiah, she is the daughter of Moses was still able to because she found him and because Jochebed was willing to let him go. So Pharaoh's daughter of the king who wanted to kill all the babies was the one that found him, and she raised him as her own. For me, she nurtured liberation because she wasn't just saving a baby. Fast forward, she was saving a people, but she didn't know it at the time. And so these stories of these women, think about where is your power? Everybody who's in the pew, it comes from. And then an interesting player in this story is Miriam. She is the sister of Moses, the big sister of Moses. So in this painting is Jochebed, Miriam, and Moses. And she was the namesake meaning strong waters, sea of bitterness. And I see for her divine wisdom. She was the protector. She was in the reeds of the water, double checking her baby brother. Any older siblings in here that have the younger siblings and you've been crowned the protector? Yeah. And then oddly enough, to my surprise, because there's something about the second born that brings this extra protective nature about them, because my Sarah, sister Sarah, is probably just as protective, if not more. But within this protectiveness, when this story plays out, she has the ability to unite and harmonize. Because when you fast forward in the story, Moses needed to be able to eat. Pharaoh's daughter wasn't going to be able to produce milk. So Miriam said, I know just the person who could be the wet nurse for this baby. And it was Jochebed. And so in this moment where you think you're giving away, you get the moment to still be able to nurture, to still be, God, I've got goosebumps like crazy, to still be able to fulfill this amazing storyline. And so there's this trinity of perfection in this story here that helps move and carry the Israelite people through years down the road, being able to be in Exodus, where you split the Red Sea, hence the namesake, strong waters, sea of bitterness. Where in your body, where in your being, where in your character do you find these qualities? Esther. That is not her Hebrew name. Her Hebrew name is Hadassah. And it means myrtle. Myrtle Fillmore, founder of Unity, Myrtle's not Myrtle's original name. It is not. Myrtle chose the name Myrtle. And Myrtle, in one of the Midrash, so it's another Hebrew scripture, in these stories give extra context that may be legend, story. So it's passed on through stories. And it says, the righteous are compared to myrtle. As myrtle spreads fragrance in the world, so did she spread good works. Esther is the one who saved the Israel people. She was sly, but she did. She brought herself into the graces of the king, the ruler at the time. And she was able to save the Jewish people because it was the order that all Jewish people be killed. And she was able to prevent that from happening. And so for her, I see wisdom in that mind-heart connection, but also in that weird way that you connect to the divine where you know you're doing something that is going to end up being very powerful, and you don't understand it and it doesn't make any sense, yet you do it because you know in your heart of hearts, your mind of minds, and your gut of gut that this is what you need to do. And she saved the Jewish people, which is why she went by Esther instead of Hadassah. So I label her, this is my label to her, because there's no evidence that she was a mom of a human, but I label her the mother of generations. Because there were generations that were able to live on beyond past her. And we have Mary, mother of Jesus, whose name also means sea of bitterness, and it also means beloved. So the meaning of that name changed and it evolved a little bit over time. And for her, the power of understanding comes to mind. Because here she is, maybe 14-ish. She wasn't fully grown. And her world is turned upside down, and she says, my soul magnifies the Lord. In raising Jesus, truly, the one who recognized the full Christ potential in the human being, by her help in nurturing and raising him up, he was able to fully come into that realization that God was magnified in a completely new way. That's powerful. And we come to one of my favorites, Mary Magdalene. Mary from the Tower. Magda was a town. The town's name meant tower. Towers are symbolic of the relationship of human ambition and divine protection. And it's interesting to see her way that she played in becoming the mother of the way, the mother of the faith that I believe Unity is the closest to. We are probably the closest to the way was. And I give her zeal, the power of zeal, because she had this excitement of the teachings of Jesus that she knew it could not be kept secret. She fought for the way to even happen. Because if you look at the Gospel of Mary, which is a Gnostic gospel, the disciples were like, we can't do this. Our lives are in danger. We're going to die. And she basically told them, we're going to do it. Put your big boy tunic on and let's go. And so it's millennia of love, fierceness, strength, and these qualities, if you'll notice when I say like fierceness, strength, we would automatically go, that's masculine. Right. But we as humans express all qualities. We express everything. Humans were the ones that categorized all this stuff. God is one love, and we are that. She empowered a movement, that when we follow the teachings of Jesus, it is a movement that will liberate the oppressed. It is a movement that will change and transform lives. It is a movement that will help us realize our divine potential. She was an encourager of sorts. Insert your name here. Even if your name is Bob, put it there. What does your name mean? Have you ever looked up to see what your name means? Leslie means strength. Leslie, my namesake, is when you combine my first name and my middle name, the you're in trouble name. I am Leslie Lynn. My dad's name is Lester. My mom's name is Linda. So this was their creative way to kind of combine the two. But Leslie means strength. What power do you resonate with of the 12 powers? Which one is your jam? Imagination is my jam. This brain does not stop. Where do you affirm, I am that, in the character of the women that we looked at? What legacy will you create? And don't make the assumption and don't make yourself small. Because for me, in my walking, in my world, I had one ask. If I can make the difference in one life, I will die happy. I will die happy, 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 because there is no limitation to how God expresses through us. We don't have to see it. We don't have to recognize it. We don't need the kudos, because we trust and know that when we exude divine love as it is, you can't not change a life. I had an experience yesterday. It was the most interesting experience. So I was going to get Mom's Mother's Day present, and so I go to the counter, and the lady that was checking me out, evidently I came across as, I'm the person that I could spill all of my everything to right here, right now at the checkout counter. And I was like, this is interesting. And she had just quit a job. This was a transitional job that she was working. The previous job treated her poorly, abusively, manipulatively. And she just, blah, 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 all of the everything. And I was like, And I said, okay. And she said, I feel liberated by being able to quit that job. And I said, can you imagine being freed from something that no longer served you? I said, I can know how freeing that can be. And so she shared she was going to move to Washington State. I was like, oh, it's beautiful over there. She's like, yeah, it is. So when we got ready to close our transaction, I said, can you imagine when you leave here and you get in your car and all of your things are packed, that you can leave behind this drama that you just experienced? It doesn't need to go with you. You can stay right here. It'll change energy into something good at some point in time. And then affirm your highest and best in what is before you in that road to Washington. And she lit up and was like, oh, I can. And it's those little moments like that if we're paying attention, we can be that divine expression of love, that moment where you give that encouragement that you got this. Because I don't think she would have shared all that if she didn't need to hear it. And so we have that opportunity to be that encouraging light of love. And so with that, there's homework. I always give you homework. So it's ways for you I put the scriptures of where these stories are in the Bible. Pick one of them and just sit with it and see, how do you resonate with this character? How is it appearing in our world today? What does this look like? Can I be part of this same thing? Because the good book is not, oh, this old thing. It's our story. These stories play out and play out and play out and play out. So while you're digging through and finding the good juices that come out of it, shine on, y'all, because I know you will.